Welcome to Fright Night. You can't read this. Shit! Oh, I don't know if you caught that, but there was a wolf howling in perfect time to me making the video. Hello, I'm Rob Deb. My mum said I could watch it fairly cold open here. Very bold move in 1985 for Fright Night, directed by Tom Holland. Fright Night is a genre film that I'm sort of then realizing might be a bit too loud behind us, so I'm turning it down just a bit more because I'm a one take guy. Mayhew, I don't know why you do it, but as you're here, Fright Night is the story of Charlie, a typical suburban kid. His mum seems to be recently divorced, um, who's got a girlfriend, got a bestie. It's just kind of C grade, middle of the road guy. However, um, the new neighbor, Mr. Dandridge, it seems, spikes his suspicions of being a vampire as the evidence builds up of the fact that Dandridge is a vampire. Charlie turns to Peter Vincent, an aging TV horror host. Think of Dr. Walpurgis from BBC Two or Elvira, as I'm sure you often do. My imaginary girlfriend, Charlie Bond, is banned from the comments. In order to get some advice, Peter Vincent himself played very much the Hammer horror vampire killer in his heyday, has recently lost his job as a syndicated man. Through a series of happenstance, Peter ends up joining Charlie in interrogating Dandridge, accidentally discovering that he is indeed a vampire. Dandridge and his familiar, referred to as Bob because I can't remember the name, uh, plan to kill both Charlie, Amy, well, Peter, and Evil in quite a nefarious way. In fact, Amy seems to have an uncanny likeness to a previous love of Dandridge, who decides to keep her in his lair. Fortunately, will they survive? How many of them survive? Will love win out in a conflict of good versus evil in a suburban picket fence, staked through a heart? So that is in essence Fright Night. Watching it now, first time I watched it, I was 10. And in fact, I have a very distinct memory of phoning up the video shop and going, I want a refund. I can't bring it round because mum won't let me. It's late and it's boring because the first 15, 20 minutes are really just worrisome. There's no supernatural elements. Looking back, ironically, I'm probably the reason why Peter Vincent had his job sacked. At this point, I'd watched enough vampire mythos or just real high cut drama. I didn't really understand the slow build. That this is ostensibly supposed to be Rear Window as much as it is supposed to be a vampire film. However, watching it now as an adult, I gotta say, Charlie's a very sweet guy, but it is Peter Vincent that draws me in throughout the entire film. There is, side note there, actually, Dandridge, I have a lot of, oh my God, he is cool, he is sexy. And that part of my brain is going, yep, 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 because of the later years of Vampire the Masquerade. He is Clan Giovanni. He's able to do that because of that. He's got Protean. He has Fortitude. Mainly Protean is the main discipline that he's using. And of course, Necromancy, hence his familiar uh, Bob not being a vampire. So there is quite a level of development there in terms of the mythos. Makes it make sense. There is with together with Near Dark and Lost Boys, that sort of predilection of whereas now we go, what if superheroes were real? What I would call then vamp admin, which is how do you make a vampire work in the 80s in terms of setting what would happen? Why would they not just be found out and destroyed? But it is Peter Vincent is the one who has a real character arc. Charlie is probably the most nascent of all of them. He is the Boy Scout. He's just Oh my god, he's a vampire. Oh my god, he's my girlfriend. Oh my god, how do we do this? That is it. He's purely reactive in that sense. Amy is the scene playing out behind us is as reluctant as she is to have sex with Charlie while he's being such a boy. Also shows some agency, and when she consents, when she puts herself forward, almost like on a plate. For Charlie, he starts looking out the window. It was kind of reminding me of the times my brother would borrow my Sega Mega Drive to show off to his girlfriend how good he was at my copy of Sonic the Hedgehog. And bearing in mind that would have been a few years later, so I would have been in my teens, and he was probably 19, 20. Jesus Christ, waste. Anyway, it is Peter who follows us here. Peter's worried about the bills. Peter's lost his job. Amy offers him $500. He accepts it. One of the key elements of Peter Vincent's growth is as scared as he is of vampires, he slowly overcomes evil, both metaphorically and physically, as evil is corrupted, because he was a victim bullied kid and he is offered a sense of power in his life and has to find faith. The cross won't work unless the person wielding it has faith. That builds in Peter, both through his success and both through his conviction of the situation they're in. Amy, as I mentioned there before, so it goes so back and forth. Also, when evil actually gets bitten, it's pretty clear from her acting. She knows that if they go back, they'll just die too. She's trying to encourage Charlie to let evil have whatever happened happen there. And it's pretty clear that she knows a bit more about survival than him. So yeah, I would say that this is a great film. Um, the pacing's really strong. The amount of logistics there. You do have a very enclosed story. Of a very middle class white suburbia. The few times you meet people of color is the detective himself, who's going along with just asking the questions of routine until Charlie goes, "He is a vampire." And he goes, "What are you on about?" And a note that was also about showing what would happen in a vampire in a club scene fight are two black bouncers within the bar where the vampire, and it just adds an extra fish into the dynamic. It's not just about showing him being able to lift up bouncers and throw them across the wall. It's the fact that they're confronting him not for being a vampire, but they see there's a fight, they need to break it up, and one of them goes, "Frankly, you are a pedo, she's too young for you, fuck off." Which I just think is just an amazing moment, rationale, and this notion of care within a club. I don't know at that point, at that time, you know, that's realistic or just those little footnotes of a person acting out of, you know what, there's a right and wrong here, and you, mate, are wrong. It's done well. It's a lot of show not tell. You don't actually understand why evil is picked on. You're just told that, but all we know is that he's some sort of freakazoid within his place. We don't really see anything about his family, his parents. We don't know exactly what's happened with Charlie's dad, but his mum's offering him Valium and is giving all the chakras. So again, much like Lost Boys, you have this thing of we're gonna have an absent dad rather than have one that's shit. Which is probably why Peter comes into this erstwhile role. His very much to conclude the character I identify with. I know what it's like to think, okay, I'm the hot stuff. I do all this comic books, I do all the genre, just to find yourself upstaged from all of the bookings by some cosplayer who's basically sprayed on their costume and wearing a cup size one smaller than they need. That was beautiful once. I mean, and then some streamer going along the side because these are the metrics now. You can't understand. Don't like them. And Charlie, yes, Mayhew does make me think of you because ultimately, while Peter is trying to just get himself together, it is that enthusiasm and it's like and that idealism that draws him into the foray, whether he likes it or not. Some bits don't quite work in terms of I do think it's the longers are more about, you know what, we needed to see more of Evil's family. We needed to see more of the family of like where is Charlie? Just those little things, just to ground it a bit of grist, that would have really put it on a par with Lost Boys. But the final act, the confrontation within the House of the Damned is brilliant. The effects are brilliant. It's really well played out. No one says a state. None of it really. There's really trite moments, but really, it works. It's strong. It's bold. I wouldn't say it's funny, but it's wry and it's definitely compelling. It's totally held up. I would say watch Fright Night where you can, ghouls and girls. And until then, stay sexy and don't get killed. Apparently, that's good for the Matrix. Bye.